Hello, para você que não me conhece, eu sou Marcelo Vieira, eu sou professor de inglês. Hoje eu fiz um vídeo com um nativo, uma pessoa que mora em Manchester, e eu fiz algumas perguntas para ele, por exemplo, o que eu posso fazer para poder melhorar o meu inglês e qual a importância de estudar uma língua estrangeira, entre outras coisas. Então esse vídeo é para você aí que quer praticar o seu listen, ou mesmo você que trabalha na área, mas que não não tem tido a oportunidade de estar praticando esse listen, ok? Então, é isso aí, o objetivo é esse mesmo.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, how are
Good
you?
night.
Good
I'm
evening
fine,
for you,
yeah.
yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good morning for me, good evening for you.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from the UK, but now I live in Thailand, in Asia.
Okay, I'm from Brazil.
From Brazil, yeah. I'm originally from Manchester in England, so...
Okay.
So, what's your name,
so,
Marcelo? Marcelo?
Yes, my name is Marcelo. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I can ask you some questions.
Of course.
There isn't problem to you.
If I can answer them, I'll do it. No problem.
Okay, so I am an English teacher here in Brazil, but I don't practice my English because how can I say, I teach more grammar at school and I don't practice my conversation. Yeah. So
Okay.
how can I improve my English in your opinion?
Okay, the best way to improve and to become more natural is to use it in that way, in a very natural, simple structure, sentence structure, keeping it nice and easy and simple. Using contractions. So that's what we do all the time as native speakers. We use contractions of I've, I'll, I'm, we've, they've, they'll. And these are very simple, but very important parts of speech. And we only use them when we're speaking. You'll know that from being a teacher, but they're very important for conversation. And they also help you with grammar. You know, they help you with, I'm going, I've been, we're going, we've been, they'll come. You've got all these little clues which help when you're teaching English and also when you're learning to speak and use it. So the first thing I say is that use contractions and try to keep your English short and sweet. Use language that's descriptive. Like if I'm talking to you and I don't like something, I won't say, oh, I don't like that. I'll say, oh, I hate that, or I love it. So using like descriptive language like that is also very useful because it says it you don't have to say 5 words to say one. I love. Same your t-shirt. I love MMA. It's one of my favorite things to watch. And so I'd say, oh, I love MMA, UFC, I like all that. So I'd say it like that. I wouldn't say, oh, I really like, or I wouldn't expand my sentence. I'd keep it short and sweet. So that's the other thing. Talking about what you like. So that's another thing, making sure you're always confident in what you speak. So at first I'd say, talk about all the things you like, and that way you can build on that experience.
I understand. I asked to you about this because here, when I was the English student, I had many Brazilian teachers, and I found just 1 or 2 American teachers, but it was for a short time. So I was thinking that my pronunciation is not good. I don't know if it's because of this. Okay, so. Do you think it's important, for example, about me, that I am a Brazilian person, study with an American teacher? Do you think it's better or not?
It depends. I mean, it depends on your influence. What I'd say, Marcelo, is I try to make my accent very neutral. So I don't have even though I'm British, and you can probably hear I'm British, I don't have like an accent. I try to keep my accent very neutral. And I do that deliberately so that I can talk to anybody from any country. It depends on your preference. I mean, if you're listening to American movies, American TV, then yeah, you're going to get used to that way of talking. But again, it depends on if you're preparing for a test. If you're preparing for the TOEFL test, I've recommended students study with an American teacher because it's an American-based test. It's internet and it's American-based. If somebody's doing the IELTS, the IELTS test, I've said you need to study with a British native speaker because it's a British test. It's Cambridge English. So you get used to that British Australian accent rather than just an American accent. So it depends on your preference. The thing about pronunciation, again, there's slight differences. Americans tend to make the vowels longer, like the A's, they are, you know, instead of like A. Like if we say like we're saying tomato, we say tomato in English.
Yeah,
they say tomato. So it's ado. You know, potato instead of potato. We say it's small potato. But I don't think there's a correct way. It's your preference, what you like. For pronunciation, I'd say make sure you're always pronouncing, or 99% of the time, the consonant letter at the end of a word. If you're pronouncing the consonant letters at the end of words, you're always going to be pronouncing clearly. That's another little tip that you can do. So if we're looking at clearly, that, or if we're looking at something like have, we don't pronounce the E. We just pronounce the V. Have. We make sure we pronounce it. Have. Half. The F at the end of half, H-A-L-F, half. So these are very important things as well for your, not just for different accents, but just so that you're clearly speaking. For me, the main elements of talking are being able to be understood. And by doing that, making sure that you speak at your pace that you can be understood. Not too quick, not too slow, but pronouncing the words as clearly as you can. And there is rules. You know that as a teacher. You probably know grammar better than I do. Using it in everyday language is what I do, you know, using it. And that's the thing that you need to do. A lot of it's practice, Marcelo. A lot of it's practice.
I believe that for us, the most difficult is when you have words with th. And I watched one interview, one person talked that the Brazilian people, when we are going to pronounce the words with that ends with letter E, the Brazilian person all the time pronounce the letter E. For example, like, we pronounce like key. What words? Yeah, so all the time I don't know why, but I think it's one, how can I say, characteristic about the Brazilian person.
Yeah, and Spanish is the same. Funny enough, people I've taught from Spain are very similar, from Mexico, you know, with a similar, I know you're Portuguese, but with that similar type of language, they do tend to do the same thing. So the way to look at it is make sure that if you, as a teacher, and as you're teaching it, if you're teaching conversation or you're teaching speech, get them to pronounce, you know, right on the board, the last consonant letter. So if it's something like have, the V is the last consonant letter. The E is a vowel. So they can differentiate in any word, whatever word you put on the board. If it's a big, even a long word, you know, if you're saying conversation, N is the last word. It's a consonant, not a vowel. So they have to pronounce that word, that letter, N, conversation. And it does help you. At first, it might slow you down a little bit, but it does help as you're progressing. The other thing is have it, as when you're talking normally, your native language, you have to think, but not so much. It's like automatic. You know, your brain knows what you want to speak. It's the same for us in English. So in not non-native speakers, people whose language English isn't their first language, I say to them, have a stack. Use conversation stacking. Have you heard of that before? Conversation stack.
I observed that my students, for example, for the basic, in general, when we are practice the basic verbs, for example, like, eat, drink, all the time the students pronounce as I told you. For example, I like key all the time. It's difficult because they say, no, don't pronounce like. Try to pronounce, for example, like, but it's impossible. All the time the person says, I like chocolate. So it's very difficult.
I like you to go outy. You know, it's like, it's very much that I like you to. I think it's because the way your language is very. To me, it's very lyrical. Portuguese is like it's very musical in the way you hear it. It flows along in a very lyrical way. You know, it's like singing in a way. It's a little bit like singing. It has that flow, and I think. And I don't know in your native language, do you have links? If you were using have in your own language, does it have a link like that? Does it have a sound?
If there is in Brazilian language,
yeah,
Portuguese, yeah, there is. This is normal because, for example, I'm from in the center of Brazil. I live near the capital of Brazil, and I live near Brazil. Here, how can I say, we have one specific kind of speaking, but if you go, for example, from all the states, for example, São Paulo, Recife, all the cities in Brazil, it's a kind of, how can I say, it's a different pronunciation, different speaking there.
Different accent, a different accent.
Accent. Yeah.
Same in England. You know, my accent would be northern, from the north of England. The south of England is different. And even in the north of England, I don't know whether it's the same in Brasilia, but even in different areas, they speak a little bit differently. In like the north where I come from, Manchester, Liverpool is only like 40 kilometers away, but they speak a different, you know, accent completely to Manchester, even in a short distance. So I understand that. And it's like you say, again, how often do you teach English to your students? Like one group? Is it only like 1 hour a week? Because it's very hard.
It depends. For example, where I am working now, it's 2 days a week. It's about 1 hour and 50 minutes. But it depends. For example, if I teach just 1 day, can be 3 hours a day or 4 hours a day. It depends.
But I mean, for the students, I taught here in Thailand, and I used to teach in the school, I was the only English teacher. So I used to teach every group they were like primary school age. So from 4 years old to 11 years old, 1 hour a week, only 1 hour a week. It's so hard because you only get them for 1 hour. And, you know, they did another hour with a Thai teacher, you know, like the Thai teachers would cover the English in their native language. So they learn English, but with a Thai teacher saying it, explaining the grammar and everything in Thai, not in English. And then I'd have to come along and try to teach them for 1 hour a week, all the groups. It's not enough. It's not enough for them to get out of that habit, you know, to break that habit, like you say, likey. It's not enough for them to break it. They need to constantly, like, you know, really be working at it. And it's the student themselves. You'll find the ones that really want to. They will. No, the ones who really want to learn, they'll take on board what you're saying. And I suppose it's very hard. How big are your classes, Marcelo? How many pupils in your class?
It's about 20 students.
Oh, that's not bad.
For example, it depends. For example, if it's advanced class, perhaps 12, 15, perhaps 10. So it depends.
See, you said it there, 12. 12,
yeah, because
12
I don't know if it because they think it's hard when it's intermediate, advanced. So when you have basic, you have a lot of students, but when you have intermediate, advanced, you have a lot of students.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have one last question.
Of course. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
So, for example, for me, it's so important to speak a foreign language because in my, how can I say, in general, I am a shy person. So now I speak with many people because I learned a foreign language, and this is helping. And now I can help the person that can learn, for example, the English. Okay, so in your opinion, what's the importance of speaking foreign language?
I think a lot of it is, as you said, understanding culture. I speak Thai. I live in Thailand and I speak Thai because if I didn't, I couldn't exist here living day to day. I mean, I have a wife and family, but, you know, in going out, I can go to the doctor, I can go to the bank, I can go to the supermarket, I can do all the things. So for you, from a cultural point of view, it's important. also, like you say, for a help, for travel. It's, if you can speak English, especially, you can literally go to any country in the world and they will have some form of the English language, either written or spoken. So you can get by, you know, somebody will always be able to help you. So it's essential for travel, I think. And it's good for your own self. To learn a foreign language is also important for you to be able to prove to yourself, because it's not easy. It's not easy. You know, it's like a thing that you can prove to yourself. We're going to run out of time, Marcelo. I'd say it's been a pleasure meeting you.